What up, Earthbound Army? Welcome back to another Earth 2 video. In today's video, I want to bring you the recent Q&A that happened in the official Discord servers after the launch of the terrain video. So some of the devs did jump into the official Discord and answered our questions. And I bring you again our favorite developer slash part-time comedian slash part-time troll, Mr. Wolfgang Walk. It's important because I know not everyone is on the official Discord, not everyone joins the Facebook forum, so this is a good way to get you information through YouTube videos. There may be a bit of speculation here on my behalf, like there has been with all YouTube videos. So, all the haters, all the whingers, all the moaners, and everyone that's like bashing on content creators on YouTube, yes, it is speculation. Yes, we're doing our best to try and add some kind of commentary and a logical and analytical approach to what the devs are saying. Obviously, people get it wrong, some people get it right, but it's always good to kind of delve in and dive into these things to see what the answers may be. Okay, so with that said, let's jump into the video. Now, in the first question here, someone asked Wolfgang, is there any value in buying water blocks? And Wolfgang says, sooner or later, sure. Okay, so we don't know what phase that is in, but eventually, there's value in buying water blocks. And later on, he goes to talk about Archimedean Dynasty and also Aquanox, which is two games that he says he's worked on. Let me see if I can bring that up on the Discord. Here you see him saying, we have tons of plans. I've worked on games like Archimedean Dynasty and Aquanox. Now, can you imagine what I would love to do with the oceans in a couple of years? So Archimedean Dynasty, I checked, and it's kind of like an really old game, but Aquanox has actually really good graphics. So let's take a look at Aquanox. This is the trailer for Aquanox, the game that Wolfgang said he worked on. It is a submarine kind of shooter game, similar to Drone, but obviously this one is in the water. So Wolfgang says, imagine what we can do with water tiles and underwater kind of gameplay in Earth 2. So if you're wondering, can we eventually build underwater? Well, look at this. Aquanox is pretty much a game where you have underwater bases and submerged cities. So there you go. This is a pretty old game, but it looks cool nonetheless. So it has a lot of potential, but what we're trying to bring to your attention here is the fact that it is an underwater world. It's underwater gameplay that Wolfgang has worked on in the past. So he does have some kind of pedigree in that sense when he says, there are things that he has imagined he would do in the future when it comes to water tiles. So in this question, Alon asks whether natural landmarks will remain, such as Mount Everest. And Wolfgang says, well, that one would be very hard to wipe out. Having watched the terrain video, we all know that natural landmarks will remain. There's no point wiping that out, because if you wipe man-made and natural, then you're going to be left with a pile of dirt and nothing else. So yeah, definitely man-made landmarks gone, natural ones will remain. So the next question, someone asked that given that no landmarks will exist, or no man-made landmarks will exist, what makes places like Times Square and Hollywood valuable in Earth 2? Wolfgang says people on Earth 1 may be curious about what's happening on Earth 2 or what's being built there. Now, maybe they will, maybe they won't, who knows. Depends on how big Earth 2 is and whether people will care to even check about Earth 2 when they're in Hollywood, when they're in Times Square. But nonetheless, we already know the high foot traffic area will be more popular. It's more valuable given that advertisement space and the use of augmented reality within that location. So I guess those two factors may make it valuable. So the next question, Earth 2 New World Order Dork Slayer asks Wolfgang, can you please confirm that it is still of good interest to acquire Class 2 tiles? Wolfgang responds by saying game design would be a huge failure if it wouldn't deliver good arguments for all tile classes, all, including 4, 5, and 6. Again, we don't know what he means by that, but we at least know at this stage 1, 2, and 3 deliver land income tax or periodic income tax or whatever they want to call it now, but that also means that class 4, 5, and 6 potentially has some value in it. Okay, so don't lose hope that you haven't got, 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, 6 will hold some value in the future. When is Earth 2 aiming to finish phase 3? Never. It will start someday and then go on and on and on and on. So is he suggesting that phase 3 is the final phase, but obviously it will keep going on? There'll be iterations of phase 3. So phase 3 is the building phase, the structural phase where you can start building your buildings and maybe terraforming your land, and that will continue forevermore. Now the next question is a very interesting one. Alon asks, what incentive will people who don't own land in the game have in wanting to play? Well, Wolfgang says, well, I would go there just to watch the sun go down on Perth, Australia. Now, good on this fellow for figuring this out, but he said there is a 100% hidden message in what Wolfgang just said. And Wolfgang says there is actually. People familiar with Gaiman's Sandman would know. Okay, so the rabbit goes deeper into the rabbit hole. Let's go deep. So I googled Sandman and I stumbled upon this wiki. It refers to a series of comic books, DC comic books created by Gaiman Sandman, I believe. And that line refers to this character called Lucifer Morningstar, who is, I guess, Lucifer. He runs, owns, and holds the key to hell. So within the comic book series, he decides to quit hell, hand back the keys, and retires. Okay, so here we go. He had retired. He was last seen on the beach in Perth, Australia, watching the sunset with an old man who told him he'd had a shit of a life, but that any god that can do sunsets like that, a different one every night, you've got to respect. Lucifer admitted the old man had a point, and that the sunsets were bloody marvelous. So I don't know what that cryptic message is, but look, we found the answer to that, and it is a beautiful message. You're right. Lucifer decides to close up shop with regards to hell. The dead return to Earth, and he enjoys beautiful sunsets in Perth, Australia, with an old man that said he had a shit life. There you go. A beautiful response by our dear old Wolfgang. So Alan asks, will the game be free to play eventually, or will only people who own land be part of it? Wolfgang then says, no, it will be free to play. Decentraland right now is also free to play. You can create your own avatar and go in and explore the world and use it as a social platform where you can chat and meet people, but you'll also have the option of playing games within that platform, and in that sense you may have to pay the creator essence coins or whatever to play whatever user generated content they may have. Now Bazinga asked about the terrain video. Was the sound in the video part of the game too? Not the music, but the the birds chirping and everything else. And Wolfgang says no, the sound was edited in. Now the next question is an interesting one, and I refer to this specific question here where Alan says, will there be control over certain monopolies in the game? For example, certain resources. And Wolfgang says there won't be monopolies. Don't even try, full stop. I have the longest stick. And I like that response because it tells me that those people that have spent a lot of money trying to buy all the coal mines in Earth 2, or they've speculated where the coal mines are, or the diamond mines or the gold mines, people have spent real money to buy these assets in the hopes that they will translate into Earth 2, and they will essentially have a monopoly if it does translate over to Earth 2. And I always had a concern over that, and Wolfgang says no, there won't be any monopolies, which is good. I'm happy to hear that. Now this individual then asked, some have discussed the possibility of replacing the teleportation system with roads, trains, and other vehicles, planes. And Wolfgang says, wouldn't that be great? And when he says something like that, you can pretty much bet that he's already has it in his head. And we've seen with Farhan's assets that he's built, he does a lot of vehicles. So I'm pretty sure there will be other modes of transport other than teleportation. Now another one of Wolfgang's smart aleck answers, how do you see currency and other exchange of goods being managed? Professionally. Love it. I love his snarky comments. So Alon then asks, will there be combat in the game or will there be rules against it? Okay, and Wolfgang says, we will have opt-in PvP in different kinds. So I recall him saying this, which is great because like I said, not everyone wants to be competitive in PvP gameplay. So the fact that there'll be opt-in is fantastic. And down the bottom, Earth 2 New World Order asks, can we expect to see land and sea creatures, maybe fishing? And Wolfgang says, I hope so. You know, we have so many sea tiles, guys. Like, you just have to imagine that he's going to do something with the sea tiles. He can't just leave it so empty, right? And he's already said Aquanox and all that stuff. So there's going to be some kind of gameplay mechanic that is underwater as well. So that is also something that's going to be really cool. So in this question, Mr. A Earth 2 asks, will the community need to vote on important changes at any point, such as laws inside the Earth 2 metaverse? And Wolfgang says, if everything is going according to plans, we would have no other choice, even if we wanted to. Yes, if Earth 2 gets into that huge thing I envision in my head, it will become a fully developed society, but this may take a long time. If it becomes this gigantic new world that we hope it to be, this new metaverse, I would like to think that they will take our input and they will act according to what the players want. You know, obviously they won't consider everything, but perhaps if we have a referendum going and we get a vote system going, maybe they will implement what we would like them to implement. So another snarky comment by our dear Wolfgang, Mr. Troll. Where do you see this game in a couple of years? On a huge 3D screen. Now in this question, the key asks, what about existing dams in Earth 2? Because he recognizes that dams obviously modify the terrain. Wolfgang reaffirms that all human-built structures will be wiped. Now someone else follows up and says, this means if I build a dam on any river, will that alter the terrain? Okay, so interesting. Will we be able to build dams? Who knows? We're not too sure how that looks, but Wolfgang says if you built a dam, we still would have to support you with the physics to hold back the water. And I won't say that's impossible, but we would have long talks about such a thing before it happened. So yeah, there's a lot of physics in this game, guys. If you think about it, you know, if we're able to terraform at some point in time, you know, and someone wants to build a dam to stop the river flowing through their city, the development team will have to think about how this will look for Earth 2. So Mr. A Earth 2 says, would you consider a dam as being natural beauty that must remain? And Wolfgang says, I consider free-flowing rivers natural beauty. Agreed. Dams are ugly anyway. I mean, they serve a purpose, but they're ugly. You know, dams are man-made. How many times do we have to go through this? No man-made structures, right? So this is a funny post by TBTE2 referring to Shane and him shaving his beard. He says, we need to attract some more female players in the game, so tell him to shave. And Shane says, shaving would most certainly have the opposite effect. Which is true. I think we do need more female players. Like I said in my other videos, imagine just like this whole game is just a bunch of guys with their doodles out. It's just not my type of game. But anyway. So how will time zones work and day-night cycles? And Ferran says the sun will sync to the real ones. It's nighttime in Australia. Teleport over to, you know, somewhere in Europe and it's daytime again. Or if you want to party somewhere and you know, it's still daytime in your area, teleport over to another country and party with those people. So great idea. So the question regarding avatars, how soon will we have avatars? And Wolfgang, straightforward, to the point, not soon. So our definition of soon, we need to come to a collective agreement on what soon means. Does it mean months? Does it mean years? Who knows? But definitely not soon for avatars. So user generated content. Now in the previous video we talked about how user generated content will be a challenge. Nathaniel did mention that, and Wolfgang also reaffirms that it's not easy as it sounds, but we really want to make it happen. Just give us some time to find out a way how. Stay tuned, I suppose, because you know, it's really important to have user-generated content, especially if they're going to have a marketplace for it and use, you know, NFTs. So that's really important. Now, Shane starts jumping in on the question and answer as well. And someone asked Shane, has the video been shared with any media outlet? Shane says, not yet. We still have not pursued any mainstream media, though I did speak with a journalist the other day who works for a company that has billions of views daily. Now, this is an interesting question that I would also like the answer to. What are the specs for this game going to be? I'm worried I won't be able to play with my current PC. I kind of want to know what system they were using to run that terrain video, because they said it was rendered in real time. It was a 30-kilometer square patch of land rendered in real time, and I want to know what specs they were using to render that, to get that quality and to get that kind of detail in there without any stuttering, lag, or issues with popping of graphics. And Ferran says it's being developed in a way that quality can be downscaled a lot. That makes a good optimistic horizon for low-end machines. So, okay, if you're going to downscale quality a lot, I want to see the spectrum of what a low-end downscaled quality video looks like versus what they showed us. Now again, Wolfgang trolling, and someone asks, if there is a PvP system, how will death be represented? Now we know in Ready Player One that when you die, you lose all your coins and you lose all your assets. And Wolfgang says your account will be wiped. We keep the money, and my daughter will finally get her golf lessons. Fantastic. So don't die, guys. Don't die. Don't let your avatars die. Now in this one, Shane says, by the way, did we mention Wolfgang is also creating 10 core languages for Earth 2 while planning the full economics? And Wolfgang says, including dialects, etymology, I'm basically J.R.R. Tolkien reborn. So he's creating his own language, is he, for Earth 2? Because we know that, for example, the Sims, they speak Simlish, right? So I wonder if the NPCs of Earth 2 will be speaking their own kind of language. That would be interesting to see what Wolfgang comes up with. Now Liam asks, especially after watching the video, the terrain video, he says, does that mean that when you move around in the open world of the game, it will look like what it did in the trailer? And Wolfgang says, yes, that was basically the point of the video. So in the video, it was quite seamless, right? Like you moved around quite seamlessly. It seemed like you were even floating at some stages, flying even. So I wonder if traveling in Earth 2 would be like that. Sometimes I imagine having a road trip with your mates, you know, just renting a virtual car, you know, with the top down and just cruising the sunset in the desert somewhere, Nevada desert, right? Yeah, I just think that would be so cool instead of this kind of seamless gliding effect that doesn't really seem real, breaks the immersion a little bit. So, but anyway, that's just a thought. So someone asked why you didn't pay an editor to make a better video with transitions and of course better sound effects. Now frankly, I thought the sound effects were pretty good. There was like a soundtrack behind it, but the sound effects of the birds and everything else was, you know, it was okay. Nathaniel says it doesn't show transitions. That's the whole point, you know. It was all in one shot, in the sense that there was no transitions, there were no loading screens, there was no popping of graphics. It was essentially a 32-kilometer square block and you moving throughout the terrain with no issues whatsoever. So this next question is actually quite important when it comes to gameplay. They ask, how is multiplayer going to be handled? Are all players going to be on one same big server, or, you know, is it going to be something different? Shane says, too early to say exactly. We have experts working on how that will work. So if you played MMO before, you know that sometimes there's an Oceania server, there's Asia server, there's a North America server, you know, Europe server, because they need to kind of break it down in chunks that way. It makes it easy for the servers to handle. So we've yet to see how Shane will implement this in the game. Not to mention, will it be cross-platform? You know, will PC players be able to play with Oculus players versus, you know, mobile players or console players or whatever? So that's also interesting to know. Now that was a really long video. I do appreciate it if you've made it this far. If you haven't, then well, it doesn't matter in a way, because you've pissed off long ago. But yeah, if you made it this far, then hopefully you've been updated on what's happened on the official Discord. Like I said, after an announcement or a trailer launch, the dev team do tend to go on the Discord and answer questions, and I know not everyone's on the Discord. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and support the channel. With that said, I'll see you in the next video.